The shuttle descended through layers of shimmering atmosphere, and Min pressed his face closer to the viewport. Below stretched a city unlike anything Earth had ever produced. Crystalline towers reached toward twin suns, their surfaces reflecting light in colors that had no name in human language. Silver bridges connected floating platforms where thousands of beings moved like rivers of living light. "First time seeing a city?" Ambassador Lee asked from across the cabin. The older man smiled at Min's obvious fascination. "Wait until you smell the air. They engineer their atmosphere with compounds that trigger what they call harmony responses, makes everyone calmer." Min nodded but didn't look away from the window. He was a security officer, assigned to protect the ambassador during Earth's first official diplomatic ceremony with the Empire. 3 months of training, countless briefings about alien customs, and yet nothing prepared him for the reality of stepping onto a world that had mastered space travel when humans still thought the Earth was flat. The shuttle landed on a platform that seemed to be made of solid light. When Min stepped out, the air hit him like a warm embrace. Ambassador Lee was right. Something in it made his shoulders relax despite his training telling him to stay alert. Around them, officials waited in formal robes that shifted colors with their movements. "Welcome, honored guests from Earth." The words came from a tall whose skin held undertones of deep blue. "I am Counselor A. The Emperor awaits your presence in the Grand Hall." The human delegation followed through corridors that physics. Walls curved in impossible angles, floors seemed to ripple beneath their feet like water frozen mid-wave, and everywhere played sounds that were almost music but not quite. Min kept his hand near his sidearm, a human plasma pistol that suddenly felt primitive in this place of wonders. The Grand Hall took his breath away. It stretched upward into infinity, or at least appeared to. Thousands of beings from dozens of species filled the space. Min recognized a few from the briefings. Tall diplomats, floating ethereals wrapped in energy fields, hulking warriors. But most were elegant and graceful, watching the humans with expressions Min couldn't read. "Stay close," he murmured to Ambassador Lee. "Lots of eyes on us." "That's rather the point of diplomacy," Lee replied with a chuckle. But Min noticed the ambassador's hand trembled slightly. The weight of representing their entire species pressed on all of them. The ceremony began with ritual exchanges Min had memorized but still found strange. Representatives from various Galactic Council members spoke in languages that required translation devices embedded in their ears. Everyone praised the wisdom of finally accepting humanity into the galactic community. Some speeches felt genuine. Others carried undertones Min's instincts didn't like. Then the music changed. A hush fell over the enormous crowd. Min's hand moved instinctively toward his weapon as guards in ornate armor formed ranks along a pathway he hadn't noticed before. "The Imperial family approaches," Counselor announced. "Show proper respect." The Emperor appeared first, a figure of such presence that even humans unused to monarchs felt compelled to bow. He wore robes that seemed woven from starlight itself, and his eyes held the weight of centuries. Behind him walked others Min assumed were family members or high nobles. Then she entered, and the world seemed to slow. She was younger than the others, moving with a grace that made the air around her shimmer. Her skin held tones of violet and silver, and her hair flowed like liquid mercury down her back. She wore simpler robes than the Emperor, but somehow commanded more attention. Princess, Min remembered from the briefings. The Emperor's youngest daughter, known for her interest in alien cultures. She walked past delegates who bowed low. Her expression remained serene, composed, every inch the imperial princess. She was perhaps 20 meters from the human delegation when something changed. Her steps faltered, just slightly, just for a heartbeat. Her head turned toward them, nostrils flaring in emotion so subtle Min almost missed it. Then her eyes went wide, wider than any expression he'd seen on a face. The violet of her irises seemed to brighten, almost glow. She was looking directly at him. Min froze. His training screamed at him to assess the threat, to move, to act. But something in her expression held him paralyzed. It wasn't anger or fear. It was recognition, desperate and absolute, like someone seeing a ghost. Princess took a step toward the humans, then another. The hall fell silent. Everyone could sense something wrong, something unprecedented happening. The Imperial guards tensed, hands moving toward weapons. Ambassador Lee grabbed Min's arm, pulling him slightly back. "What did you do?" Lee hissed. "Nothing," Min whispered back. "I've never met her. I've never been off Earth until 3 months ago." But the princess kept walking toward them, her composure crumbling with each step. Her breathing grew rapid, visible even across the distance. Tears began streaming down her face, though her expression remained locked in that look of impossible recognition. She stopped 3 meters away. The Imperial guards had surrounded her now, creating a barrier between the princess and the humans. But she barely noticed them. She stared at Min like he was the only being in the entire hall. Her lips moved. Sound came out, but so quietly the translation device barely caught it. When it did, the words made no sense. You're alive, you're real, the smoke and fire, I thought, I never knew." Then her legs gave out. She collapsed like strings had been cut, and only the quick reactions of her guards prevented her from hitting the floor. They caught her, lifted her, but her eyes never left Min. Even as they carried her toward an exit, her hand reached out toward him, shaking, desperate. The hall erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted in a dozen languages. The Emperor's expression had turned to stone, unreadable and terrible. Counselor A was barking orders in rapid. The human delegation found themselves suddenly surrounded by both guards and their own security team. "What just happened?" Ambassador Lee demanded, looking at Min with a mixture of fear and confusion. "Lieutenant, I need answers now." But Min had no answers. He stared at the exit where they'd taken the princess, his mind racing through memories, trying to find something, anything that would explain her reaction. He'd never met her before today. He was certain of it. So why had she looked at him like he'd saved her life? 2 hours later, Min sat in a secured room while human and officials argued in adjacent chambers. His commander had questioned him 3 times. Ambassador Lee had demanded his complete service record. Security had scanned him for contaminants, devices, anything that might explain the incident. They found nothing because there was nothing to find. Min was exactly who his record said, a former rescue worker who joined Earth Defense Force security after the wars. No alien contact, no secret missions, just a man trying to do his job. The door opened. Counselor A entered, and behind her stood 2 figures in robes that marked them as high Imperial officials. "Lieutenant Min," A said formally, "the Emperor requests your presence, alone." The Emperor's private chamber was smaller than Min expected. No throne, no grand decorations, just a simple room with walls that showed projections of distant stars and a low table surrounded by cushions. Emperor N sat alone, and when he gestured for Min to sit, his hand shook slightly. "You are wondering why my daughter collapsed," the Emperor said without preamble. His voice carried the weight of exhaustion. "You are wondering what you could have possibly done to cause such a reaction." "Yes, Your Majesty." Min remained stiff, formal. "I've never met Princess before today. I've never had contact with any before this diplomatic mission." "That is what your records indicate," N agreed. "Yet my daughter recognized you, not your face, not your voice, your scent." Min blinked. "I don't understand." The Emperor waved his hand and the star projections changed. Now they showed a planet Min recognized immediately. Earth. The image zoomed toward a region of space near the outer colonies. 10 years ago," N began, "there was a war. Your people call it the incursion. You believed you were attacked by unknown raiders seeking resources and technology." "I know," Min's voice went flat. "I was there." The Emperor nodded slowly. The raiders were not unknown aliens, Lieutenant. They were ours, military factions who opposed any contact with humanity. They feared your species, your rapid advancement, your unpredictable nature. So they decided to eliminate the possibility of peaceful relations by eliminating the peace delegates. The images shifted. Now they showed ships, sleek and deadly, attacking human installations. Min watched his own past play out on alien projections. There was a diplomatic mission, N continued. Secret, unauthorized by most of our government. A group of who believed humanity deserved a chance at peaceful first contact. They traveled to your outer colonies to make initial assessments, to begin the long process of introduction. The image focused on one particular ship, smaller than the warships, elegant in design. Min saw it approach a space station he knew too well. Meridian 7, he whispered. Yes, the peace delegation was detected by the military faction. They were shot down over that research station during the attack. Everyone aboard was meant to die. No evidence could remain that had ever considered peace with humanity. The Emperor's voice grew softer. My daughter was aboard that ship. Min's mind reeled. He stared at the projection, watching the peaceful vessel spiral toward the station in flames. He'd been there. He remembered that day in fragments and nightmares. I was a rescue worker, Min said quietly. Volunteer corps attached to the defense force. When the attack started, we were trying to evacuate civilians from the lower levels. Tell me what you remember. It was not quite a command, almost a plea. Min closed his eyes. The memories hurt even after 10 years. Fire, everywhere fire. The station was breaking apart. We had maybe minutes before the reactor core breached. I was helping people to the evacuation ships when I heard something, a sound that didn't belong. He could see it again. Smoke so thick he could barely breathe through his mask. Bodies of people he knew, colleagues, friends, children. The station groaning around him like a dying creature. I followed the sound, found wreckage from a ship I didn't recognize. The design was nothing like human or craft. Inside, someone was alive, trapped under debris. Describe her, N said softly. I couldn't see her clearly through the smoke. She was small, seemed young, bleeding from a head wound, terrified. She was saying something in a language I didn't know. When I tried to lift the debris, she fought me at first. Then she realized I was trying to help. Min opened his eyes. The Emperor was watching him with an intensity that made his skin prickle. I carried her out, had to go through 3 collapsing sections to reach the evacuation point. She held onto me the whole way. I could feel her shaking. When we finally reached the ships, medics took her. Everything was chaos. The reactor went critical 2 minutes later. I got separated in the evacuation, ended up on a different transport. Did you ever learn who she was? No, the records from that day were incomplete. So many people died. So many were lost in the refugee chaos. I assumed she survived, recovered somewhere. I never thought about it again. Min paused. That's a lie. I thought about all of them, everyone I saved, everyone I couldn't save, but I never knew their names or what happened after. The Emperor stood and walked to the window. Beyond it, the crystalline city gleamed under twin suns. Possess olfactory memory far superior to humans, Lieutenant. Our sense of smell is connected directly to our deepest neural pathways. Scents imprint permanently, especially during moments of extreme emotion. Fear, joy, love, trauma. You're saying she remembered my scent from that day. She has never forgotten it. For 10 years, she believed her rescuer died when Meridian 7 exploded. She watched the station break apart as her evacuation ship fled. She thought you perished in the fire that she survived. The guilt has haunted her every day. Min sat silent, processing. A scared girl in the smoke and fire. He'd barely thought of her as a person in that moment, just another life to save. And she'd been an alien princess, the daughter of the most powerful ruler in this part of the galaxy. Why didn't she say anything before? Min asked. Why didn't your government tell humanity the truth about the attack? The emperor's expression grew hard. Because the military faction that orchestrated Meridian 7 was never fully eliminated. They went underground, continued to operate in secret. Exposing them would have meant civil war. My government chose stability over truth. We let your people believe a lie. People died because of that lie. Yes, thousands of your people, dozens of mine, the price of political cowardice. N turned back to face Min. My daughter has carried the weight of that lie alone. She was forbidden from speaking of what happened, forbidden from trying to find you. She was told it was for the good of our empire, for the stability of our government. And now the peace faction has finally gained enough power to push for open relations with humanity. Now my daughter can finally speak. But the trauma of that day, of watching her entire team die, of 10 years of silence, has damaged her deeply. Since your delegation arrived, she has barely spoken. And when she saw you in that hall, smelled you, recognized you after a decade of believing you dead. The Emperor's voice cracked slightly. She broke. Min stood slowly. What do you want from me, your majesty? I want you to speak with her. I want you to help her heal. You saved her life once. Perhaps you can save her again. I'm not a therapist. I'm not qualified for this. You are the only person in the galaxy who can help her. You are the proof that not everything from that day was lost. You are the proof that her survival meant something. Min thought of the scared girl in the smoke, thought of all the people he'd failed to save that day, thought of the nightmares that still woke him some nights. If I agree, he said slowly, I want the truth, all of it. I want to know exactly what happened at Meridian 7 and who was responsible. I want to know why thousands of people had to die for your political games. Emperor N met his eyes. For the first time, Min saw not a ruler but a father. You will have it, N promised. Every file, every name, every secret we have buried. If you help my daughter, I will give you the truth humanity deserves. Min nodded once. When can I see her? Tomorrow. She needs tonight to prepare herself, to understand that you are real and alive. The Emperor paused. Thank you, Lieutenant. Thank you for saving her then, and thank you for being willing to try again. As Min left the chamber, his mind was already in that day 10 years ago, remembering the weight of her in his arms, the way she'd clung to him, the sound of her voice speaking words he couldn't understand. He'd thought he was just doing his job, just being human, saving who he could from the fire. He never imagined it would lead him here, to an alien world, to a princess who remembered his scent, to secrets that could change everything between their peoples. Tomorrow he would face her. Tomorrow he would try to help heal wounds a decade old. Tonight he would remember Meridian 7 and everyone who died there. He owed them that much. Lady met Min at the entrance to the royal gardens. She was older than Princess, with skin that held deep golden tones and eyes that assessed him with careful intelligence. The princess has agreed to see you, said without greeting. But you will follow my rules. You will not approach her without permission. You will not touch her. You will speak softly and respectfully. If she shows any sign of distress, you will leave immediately. I understand, Min replied. He'd expected this. Protection of royalty was universal, whether human or alien. The gardens were nothing like Earth gardens. Plants with crystalline leaves grew in geometric patterns. Water flowed upward in defiance of gravity, forming spirals and loops before falling as mist. The air smelled sweet but not overwhelmingly so, pleasant, calming. Princess sat on a bench carved from single piece of white stone. She wore simple robes today, pale blue that made her violet skin seem to glow. Her hair was pulled back in a style that seemed more practical than decorative. She looked small, vulnerable, nothing like the composed imperial figure from the ceremony. She saw him approaching and her entire body tensed. Her hands gripped the edge of the bench so hard her knuckles darkened, but she didn't look away. Princess, Min said carefully, stopping several meters away. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me." For a long moment she just stared. Then, in heavily accented human standards, she spoke. "You are real. I did not dream you. I did not imagine you." "I'm real," he confirmed gently. "My name is Min. I was at Meridian 10 years ago. I remember finding you in the wreckage. I remember carrying you to the evacuation ships." A sound escaped her throat. Half sob, half laugh. Tears started flowing down her face, but she was smiling. "I looked for you," she said. "In every refugee record I could access, in every database of survivors. I never found your name. I thought you stayed behind. I thought you died when the station exploded. I survived, got separated in the evacuation, ended up on a different transport." Min took a careful step closer. "I never knew who you were, just another person who needed help that day." "Just another person," she repeated and laughed again, but this time it sounded broken. "I am the Emperor's daughter. People bow when I enter a room. Guards follow me everywhere. My words can start wars or end them. But that day I was just another person to you. That day everyone was just people who needed help. Your title didn't matter, your species didn't matter. You were alive and hurt and scared. That was enough." Princess stood slowly. Lady tensed behind Min, but didn't intervene. The princess walked toward him with careful steps, as if approaching something that might disappear. "May I?" she asked, gesturing toward him. Min glanced at, who nodded slightly. "Yes." Stepped close, so close he could see the complex patterns in her eyes, the way her skin shifted tones in the light. She leaned forward and inhaled deeply. "Yes," she whispered, "it is you. Beneath the soap and the clothing and the time past, it is you." She stepped back quickly as if embarrassed. "Forgive me. That is very rude by your customs, I think. But for my people scent is identity, more true than faces or voices." "It's fine," Min assured her. "Your father explained about olfactory memory. I understand it's important to you." They stood in awkward silence for a moment, then gestured to the bench. "Will you sit? I have carried questions for 10 years. I would like answers if you have them." They sat, carefully maintaining space between them. Lady remained standing nearby, watching. "What do you want to know?" Min asked. "Why did you help me? You did not know who I was. You did not know if I was friend or enemy. For all you knew, my people were the ones attacking your station. Why risk your life?" Min considered the question. It was one he'd asked himself many times over the years, about all the people he'd tried to save. "Because you needed help," he said simply. "Because I could help you. What other reason do you need?" Most beings require more reason than that. Most calculate risk versus benefit, assess whether the person being saved is worth the danger. Then most beings are wrong. Min met her eyes. Every life has value. Every person deserves a chance. That's what being human means to me, not our technology or our weapons or our achievements. Our willingness to help others even when it costs us something. Fresh tears rolled down's face. "My people killed thousands of yours that day. My people started that war, and still you saved me." "Your people didn't kill anyone. A faction of your military did. There's a difference. You were a victim just like everyone else at Meridian 7. I do not feel like a victim. I feel like I carry responsibility for every death. If I had not been on that mission, if the peace delegation had not existed, maybe the attack would never have happened." Min recognized the guilt. He'd carried his own version for years. "Princess, can I tell you something?" She nodded. "After Meridian 7, I had nightmares. Still do sometimes. I see all the people I couldn't reach. The ones trapped in sections that collapsed before I got there. Children, elderly, people calling for help that never came. I saved maybe 24 people that day. Hundreds died. For years I wondered if I made the right choices, if I should have gone left instead of right, should have tried harder, run faster." "What changed?" asked softly. "I realized that guilt over survival is selfish. The people who died don't need me to torture myself. They needed me to keep living, to keep being the kind of person who tries to help, to make their deaths mean something by building a better future. Stared at her hands. My father says the same thing, that I honor the dead by working for peace, by trying to make sure their sacrifice was not meaningless. Your father is right. They sat in silence for a while, peaceful. In the garden around them, alien birds sang songs that were almost familiar. Water flowed in its impossible patterns. The twin suns warmed the air without burning. Can you tell me about Meridian 7? Asked. About the people there. I know only death and fire and fear. I would like to know what it was before. So Min told her. He described the research station, small but vital. The scientists studying asteroid mining techniques. The families who lived there because it was safer than the inner colonies during wartime. He told her about old man who ran the station's garden and grew vegetables that tasted like home. About Wu, the mechanic who could fix anything with spare parts and stubbornness. About little Bin who wanted to be an astronaut. Did they survive? Asked. The ones you name. Old man did. I saw him on the evacuation ship. Wu and Bin. I don't know. I hope so. I hope so too. Wiped her eyes. Thank you for telling me, for making them real to me. Not just numbers in reports, but people with names and dreams. They talked for hours. About Meridian 7 and the war. About Earth then. About the differences between their peoples and the surprising similarities. Human standard improved as she relaxed, remembering words she'd studied years ago in preparation for peaceful contact that never came. When the twin suns began to set, painting the sky in colors Earth never saw, reached into her robes and pulled out something small, a crystalline shard that caught the light and threw rainbows. This is a memory stone, she explained. In culture, we give these to people who are important to us, family, close friends, those we trust with our lives. She held it out to him. I want you to have this. Min took it carefully. It was warm to the touch and seemed to pulse gently. What does it do? It resonates with your biosignature. Only you can activate it. If you ever need help, if you ever need to reach me, hold it and think of me. I will know. I will come. This seems like a very significant gift. It is. Among my people, such tokens are only exchanged between family or, she paused, searching for words, between those whose lives are joined, whose paths are forever connected. Min understood. This wasn't just a thank you gift. This was a bond, a promise. He should probably refuse, should probably cite diplomatic complications, but looking at her face, at the hope and fear mixed there, he couldn't. I'll treasure it, he said simply. Smiled real and bright. Good, that is good. As Min left the gardens with Lady, the older woman spoke quietly. You have done the princess great honor today, Lieutenant. You have given her something she has not had in 10 years. What's that? Peace. The knowledge that at least one good thing came from that terrible day. That she was saved by someone who did not want reward or recognition, just someone who was human enough to care. Min thought about that word, human enough. On Earth they used it to mean weakness sometimes, emotional, soft, but maybe in the bigger galaxy being human meant something else. Maybe it meant being the person who reaches into the fire for a stranger. Maybe that wasn't weakness at all. The plaza was crowded with thousands of beings from dozens of species. It was a celebration of the new human friendship, 3 weeks after the initial diplomatic ceremony. Princess stood on a raised platform, giving a speech about hope and unity. Min watched from his position in the security detail, scanning faces and movement patterns like he'd been trained. That's when he saw it, a figure in the crowd moving wrong, not toward the platform but parallel to it, calculating angles. Min's instincts screamed warning half a second before the weapon appeared. He moved without thinking. Training took over. He launched himself toward the platform as the energy blast cut through the air where had been standing. She hit the ground with Min on top of her, shielding her body with his. A second blast scorched the platform where they'd been. "Stay down," Min shouted. His weapon was already in his hand, returning fire toward the shooter. Around them, chaos erupted. Civilians screaming and running. Security teams converging. The assassin was already fleeing into the panicking crowd. "I am not hurt," gasped from beneath him. "Min, I am not hurt. You can let me up." He rolled off her carefully, checking her for injuries anyway. Lady and other guards surrounded them immediately, forming a protective barrier. In the distance, security teams chased the assassin, but Min already knew they wouldn't catch them. The attack was too professional, too well planned. "Did you see who it was?" asked, accepting help to stand. Her robes were torn and dirty, but her eyes were sharp, focused, not panicking. "No clear view of their face, I think. The height and movement patterns matched." Min scanned the dispersing crowd. "They knew exactly where you'd be standing and when." "Inside information," said grimly. "This was not some random attack." 2 hours later, Min sat in a secure conference room with beings he'd never expected to work with. Commander Wu of Imperial Intelligence was a severe man with scars that suggested a violent past. Agent Wu Park from Earth Intelligence Service was young but sharp, her eyes missing nothing. Several other and human officers filled the remaining seats. Most surprising was Princess. She'd refused to be taken to safety, insisting on participating in the investigation. Her father had reluctantly agreed. "The assassin was professional," Wu said, displaying footage from security cameras. Military training specifically. See the stance, the weapon handling, that's Imperial Guard technique." "Someone from inside your own guard tried to kill the princess?" Wu asked sharply. "Not current guard, former perhaps, or someone trained by them." Wu's expression was grim. "This connects to intelligence we've been gathering for months. We believe the military faction responsible for Meridian 7 was never fully eliminated. They went underground, continued to operate in secret." Leaned forward. "How long have you known this?" "We've had suspicions for years, Princess, but no proof. They're careful, small operations, nothing we could trace definitively." "Until now," Min said. "They just tried to assassinate Imperial royalty in public. That's desperate, sloppy." "Or confident," Wu suggested. "Maybe they think they have enough power to act openly now." Commander Wu pulled up another display. "After today's attack, I've been authorized to share classified intelligence with this task force. What you see here are financial records we've been tracking, money moving through shell corporations, weapons purchases, communications intercepts. The conspiracy is bigger than we thought." Min studied the data. His stomach sank as he recognized patterns. "This isn't just military. There are human companies here, Earth corporations." "Yes," Wu confirmed. "We've been investigating our side too. Defense contractors who profit from tension between our species. Politicians who use fear of aliens to gain power. They don't want peace. Peace is bad for business." "So both our peoples have traitors working together to keep us apart," said. Her voice was cold. "Working together while preaching that we can never work together. The irony would be amusing if it wasn't so evil." "There's more," Wu continued. "We've intercepted communications suggesting another attack is planned, something bigger than today, targeting the Unity Summit next month where your governments plan to sign the Mutual Defense Treaty." "They want to destroy the treaty before it's signed," Min realized. "Kill enough important people from both sides and our peoples will turn on each other. Years of peace efforts destroyed in one strike." "Precisely." Wu looked at each person in the room. "This task force has one mission: find the conspiracy leadership, stop the summit attack, expose these traitors before they can tear apart everything we've built." "I want to help," said immediately. "Princess, with respect, you're a target. You should be in protective custody." "I am a target because I represent peace between our peoples. I will not hide while others fight to protect what I believe in." Her expression was steel. I have combat training, I have intelligence analysis experience, and I have more reason than anyone to see this through. My entire diplomatic team died at Meridian 7. I will not let their deaths be meaningless. Wu looked at Min, Lieutenant. You're officially assigned as the princess's security. Do you support her participation? Min Met's eyes saw the determination there. The need to act, not be protected, he understood it, felt the same way himself. She participates, but she follows security protocols. No unnecessary risks. Agreed, said. The team spent weeks following leads. They discovered the conspiracy was even more widespread than suspected. Trade guilds who profited from separate markets. Politicians on both worlds who built careers on fear. Even members of the Galactic Council who preferred a divided human front to a united one. Min worked closely with throughout the investigation. She was brilliant at analysis, seeing patterns others missed. She was also stubborn, refusing to stay back when operations turned dangerous. He found himself admiring her courage even as it terrified him. You don't have to prove anything, he told her one night after a particularly risky infiltration of a suspected conspiracy safe house. Everyone knows you're brave. I am not trying to prove I am brave. I am trying to ensure my people and yours have a future together. She looked at him. You understand, I know you do. You would do the same. She was right, he would. That's why he couldn't order her to stay safe. She was fighting for something that mattered just like he was. The break came when Wu cracked an encrypted communication network. They finally had names, leadership positions, and confirmation that the summit attack would be catastrophic. Bombs placed throughout the venue, multiple assassination teams, chaos designed to trigger war. We have 3 days to stop this, Wu said. 3 days to expose these criminals and secure the summit. The team worked around the clock, human and officers sharing information, trusting each other with their lives. It was what the conspiracy feared most, proof that the two species could work together. On the night before the summit, they cornered one of the conspiracy leaders, Lord, a high-ranking noble who'd been one of the original architects of Meridian 7. He was calm when they arrested him, almost amused. You think you've won, he said. You think exposing a few names will stop this. The fear between our peoples is real. The differences are real. Your little alliance will crumble at the first real test. You're wrong, said. She'd insisted on being present for the arrest. You're wrong because you don't understand what being human means, what it means to build bridges instead of walls. And what does it mean, princess? Asked mockingly. It means when your people shot down my ship when they left me to die in fire and smoke, a human I'd never met risked his life to save me, not because of politics or profit, because it was right. She stepped closer to the captured noble. It means humans choose compassion over fear, and that makes them stronger than you will ever be. His expression twisted. Your attachment to this human has made you weak, made you forget your own people. No, it has reminded me what my people should be, what we can be if we let go of fear and embrace our better nature. As they led away, Min stood beside. That was well said. I meant every word. She looked at him. Thank you for saving me then, for standing with me now, for showing me what true strength looks like. Tomorrow would be the summit. Tomorrow they would face whatever remained of the conspiracy. But tonight, for just a moment, they had won a victory. The future was still uncertain, but at least now it was possible. The Unity Summit Complex was the most secure location in the galaxy. Shields that could withstand orbital bombardment. Security systems designed by 3 different species. Guards from a dozen worlds. Yet Min felt the weight of danger like a physical presence. All teams in position. Commander Wu's voice came through his earpiece. Intel suggests the conspiracy will try multiple simultaneous attacks. Stay alert. Min stood near the main hall where hundreds of delegates from Earth were gathering. Ambassador Li was there representing humanity. Emperor N himself had come to sign the treaty, and Princess stood beside her father, visible proof that peace was possible. The ceremony began with traditional rituals from both cultures. Humans and taking turns speaking about hope and cooperation. Min watched the crowd, watched the entrances, watched everything. Beside him, Wu and other team members did the same. "Something's wrong," Wu muttered. "Too quiet. We arrested their leadership, exposed their network. Why haven't they tried anything?" "Maybe they gave up," Min suggested without believing it. "Or maybe they're better at hiding than we thought." The first explosion came from the eastern wing, not large enough to breach the main hall but enough to trigger panic. People started moving toward exits. Security teams responded immediately. It was perfectly designed chaos. "It's a diversion," Min realized. "They want everyone moving, easier to hit targets in the confusion." He was right. Assassins emerged from the panicking crowd, weapons aimed at key delegates. But the security teams were ready. Firefights erupted throughout the complex. The careful ceremony descended into a battlefield. "Protect the Emperor," guards surrounded in, moving him toward a secure exit. Was with them, protected by Lady and a squad of elite soldiers. Min started to follow, but another explosion rocked the western corridor. The blast knocked people down, damaged support structures. He heard screaming, people trapped, both humans and injured and calling for help. He looked toward where was being evacuated. She was safe, protected. Then he looked at the western corridor where people needed help. The same choice he'd faced at Meridian 7, save who he could reach or pursue a bigger goal. "Wu," he spoke into his comm. "Western corridor has casualties. I'm going to get them out." "Negative, Lieutenant. You're assigned to protect the princess. Stay with the evacuation team." "She's got a dozen guards. These people have no one. I'm going." He ran toward the damaged corridor before anyone could stop him. The scene was terribly familiar. Smoke and fire, collapsed sections, people crying out in pain and fear. He found a young woman pinned under debris, her leg twisted at a wrong angle. Found 2 human delegates unconscious from the blast. Found an elderly ambassador from another species entirely, too weak to walk. "I've got you," Min said to each of them. "Stay with me, we're getting out." He carried them one by one to safety, called for medical teams, went back for more, just like Meridian 7, just like always. Save who you can reach. Keep moving. Don't think about the ones you can't help. Somewhere in the complex the battle continued. He heard weapons fire, more explosions, Commander Wu calling tactical orders, but Min focused on his task, person by person, life by life. Security footage later showed what he did that day. Showed him going back into dangerous sections again and again. Showed him protecting both humans and without distinction. The images would be broadcast across both worlds. Proof that in crisis, one human chose to save lives rather than seek revenge. Meanwhile, in the main hall, Princess had broken away from her guards. She'd seen the security feeds, seen what was happening, seen the conspiracy's final desperate gamble. General L, the military leader who'd orchestrated Meridian 7, stood in the center of the hall with a dead man's trigger. Explosives throughout the complex. If he released it, everyone would die. "Stand down," Wu ordered. "You're surrounded." "If I die, everyone dies," El replied calmly. "And the war between humans and begins. Fear will win, as it always does." Walked forward. Her guards tried to stop her, but she shook them off. She walked toward the man who'd killed her diplomatic team, who tried to kill her, who represented everything she'd fought against. "You're wrong," she said clearly. Every word broadcast across all channels. Every being in the galaxy would hear this. Fear doesn't always win. Sometimes courage wins. Sometimes compassion wins. Pretty words from a naive princess. I was naive once. 10 years ago, I believed in peace between our peoples. Then your forces shot down my ship, killed everyone I was traveling with, left me to die in the wreckage of a human space station. The hall was completely silent now. Even Elle seemed surprised she was speaking so openly. I should have died there. I should have been another casualty of your fear and hatred. But a human saved me. A man who didn't know who I was, didn't know if I was friend or enemy. He risked his life to carry me through fire and smoke to safety. He asked for nothing in return, expected no reward. He did it because it was right. She took another step toward Elle. That human is here today. Right now, while you threaten everyone with death, he's saving lives. Both human and, not because of politics or strategy, because that's what humans do. They reach into the fire for strangers. One person's kindness means nothing against the reality of our differences. You're wrong. One person's kindness means everything. It means peace is possible. It means we can choose to be better than our fears. His voice grew stronger. You created Meridian 7 thinking it would end the possibility of friendship between our peoples. Instead, you created the very bond that will unite us. The human who saved me taught me what true strength looks like, what honor looks like, what being better than our base instincts looks like. Around the hall, people were watching, not just in person but across broadcasts. Millions, billions, all hearing a princess declare that humanity had something precious to teach the galaxy. Elle's hand trembled on the trigger. You're a fool, corrupted by alien influence. No, I'm someone who learned that species doesn't determine character. Actions do, choices do, and I choose to build bridges instead of walls. I choose peace over fear. I choose to honor the human who saved me by making sure his sacrifice meant something. She stood directly in front of Elle now, close enough that if he detonated, she would die instantly. So make your choice, General. Kill everyone here and prove that fear wins, or surrender and prove that even in darkness there's hope for light. For a long moment nothing happened. Then slowly Elle's hand opened. The trigger dropped. Wu and his team moved instantly, securing the explosives, restraining the general. The conspiracy's last stand had failed. Not through violence, through words, through one princess refusing to let fear win. When Min finally emerged from the western corridor, covered in soot and exhausted, the battle was over. He'd saved 17 people, both humans and small numbers in the grand scheme, but 17 lives that wouldn't have survived without him. Found him outside the medical station where he was being checked for injuries. She ran to him, and for the first time he saw her cry from pure relief. You fool, she said, hitting his chest lightly. You left your assigned position. You could have died. People needed help. I couldn't ignore them. I know, that's what makes you who you are. That's what makes humans who you are. She smiled through tears. Your people are remarkable, infuriating and brave and ridiculously compassionate. The galaxy needs you. The Unity Summit was delayed by a day for repairs and medical care. But when it resumed, the treaty was signed. Not just between Earth but with dozens of other species who'd witnessed what happened. Who'd seen humans and fight together, protect each other, choose peace over vengeance. Min was decorated by both governments, given medals and titles he didn't want. What mattered more was the message it sent, that ordinary people making ordinary choices to help others could change the galaxy. Princess became ambassador, appointed to lead integration efforts between their peoples. Min was assigned to work with her, officially as security but really as a partner. They understood each other. Two survivors of Meridian 7 building the future that Day's victims would have wanted. 5 years later, they stood together on a new world, a colony built jointly by humans and the first truly integrated settlement. Children of both species playing together, adults working side by side, learning from each other, building something neither could build alone. We're calling it Meridian Station, said, watching the sunset paint alien skis in familiar colors. In memory of what was lost, in hope of what we're building. Min nodded. He still wore the crystalline token she'd given him years ago. still carried the weight of everyone he couldn't save. But now he also carried hope, proof that one act of kindness could ripple across years and worlds. "Do you ever regret it?" asked quietly. "Saving me that day, your life became so complicated because of it." "Never." He looked at her, at the city rising behind them, at the future they were building together. "You were right about what being human means. We reach into the fire for strangers. We build bridges instead of walls. We choose compassion over fear. That's not weakness. That's our greatest strength. The galaxy is learning that now, thanks to you. Thanks to us, human courage and determination, working together." As the sun set on their new world, children laughed in the streets below. Human and playing games that combined both cultures, learning to see each other not as aliens but as friends. It had taken fire and blood and sacrifice to reach this point, taken 10 years and countless obstacles. But looking at those children, at the future they represented, Min knew it was worth it. Every life saved mattered. Every bridge built mattered. Every choice to be kind instead of fearful mattered. That was the lesson humanity brought to the galaxy. That was why they called it HFY. Not because humans were stronger or smarter or more advanced, but because when faced with fire, they reached in to save others. When faced with aliens, they extended friendship. When faced with fear, they chose hope. That was what made them remarkable. That was what would carry them to the stars. And Princess, who'd learned this lesson in smoke and fire a decade ago, would spend her life making sure the galaxy never forgot it.